The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. Reaper Apparel offers a casual line of superb fit, finish, and comfort. We design for those who refuse to die slowly and choose to live untamed. For those who aren't afraid to face the dark, for the ones that thrive in it, and for those who can appreciate life through a grim lens. That's Reaper Apparel Company. Go to the link in the description of this episode, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Tactical Brotherhood, all American-made apparel, which helps support the Second Amendment. You can also find all this in the description of this episode with the link Tactical Brotherhood. Part of every proceed does go to helping veterans. It is a very good cause. All American-made products made right here in Minnesota. Go and check them out. Use the promo code PATRIOT15 to get 15% off your purchase. The Ride Home Rants podcast wants to thank you for listening and let everybody know that we do offer monthly subscriptions to help support the show in other ways other than listening and downloading each episode. What you will get with each subscription is you will get bonus episodes that aren't released to everybody. You will also have a chance to ask me anything each and every month where I will put out a special episode just to answer your questions. You will also get more exclusive content that is not released to everybody. To subscribe to the show, go and click on the link in the description of this episode, and I look forward to your added support and to help us keep this show going. The Ride Home Rants podcast is also brought to you by Buddy's Beard Care. Buddy's Beard Care provides premium men's grooming products at an affordable price. Products are made in Ohio, and Buddy's Beard Care supports local. The majority of our supplies are from other Ohio-based companies. You can find them on social media at Buddy's Beard Care or online at buddysbeardcare.com. Use the promo code BONO15 and he will save you 15%. I've been using these products for a little over 6 months now, and my beard has never felt healthier. It has never grown faster, and according to my wife, it has never felt softer. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by former guest of the show in Matt Landowski in Sweet Hands Sports. Elevate their game with Sweet Hands Sports. Our sports gloves are designed for champions, providing ultimate grip and durability. Achieve greatness with every match. Choose Sweet Hands Sports for the winning edge. Grip your victory at sweethandsports.com. Use the promo code BONO10 and he will save you 10%. He has sent me a complimentary pair of golf gloves. They are so comfortable, durable, and breathable. You won't find a better pair of gloves out there. Again, sweethandsports.com, promo code BONO10. Lastly, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Deemed Fit, a clothing company from first responders for first responders. These products are so comfortable. They look great. They have great messages on them. They are provided to support first responders, especially those who worked through COVID. All of the proceeds are going to helping veterans and first responders with their mental and physical health. This is a great cause. I support anything that has to do with our first responders and our veterans. Again, deemedfit.co, promo code Mike Bono will save you 20%. Now, let's start the show. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. This is, as always, your host, Mike Bono. I have a great guest for us today. He is brought to us all the way by the Latin assassin, Tony, from a couple weeks ago. He is another mixed martial artist. We're going to get into that. And this is Anthony, the Violence Pirozzoli, joins the show today. Anthony, thank you for joining, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, not a problem at all. So, for most people that don't follow mixed martial arts, tell them, where you're originally from and where did you grow up and stuff like that.
I'm originally from Rock Creek, Ohio. I live in Austinburg now. Grew up going to Geneva High School, through, K through 12. Went to a trade school, all that.
Okay. So,
Did you do any sports growing up, or has like fighting, wrestling kind of always been the thing for you?
I wrestled a little bit in middle school for like 2.5, 3 years, and then hit high school. And I decided that I'd much rather go work and make money for the time being. I didn't really see the point in sports.
No, I got you. Yeah, there's a lot of people like that. So with that kind of attitude, like what kind of got you into MMA?
I originally got in. It was just something I always wanted to do. I was always a huge fan, just watching on the TV and stuff. And I was like, I gotta get in a fight one day. I gotta get in a fight one day. And I don't know, got big into lifting towards the end of high school. Started pumping out weights all the time, putting on weight. And then one day I was like, why don't I just, what's stopping me? So I looked up an MMA gym and started in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, worked my way into MMA, and then fell in love with striking and kind of just followed a path of being a kickboxer.
Okay, so you more of a striker versus a grappler when it comes
Yeah. Oh,
to
yeah.
MMA? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nickname the violence. I mean, that kind of go.
I'm not much for the grappling stuff. I've only had one MMA fight. All of my other fights have been strictly stand up, kickboxing, Muay Thai, boxing. I don't know. It's just, even though I wasn't bad at grappling. At least I thought I was, and I still know enough to be dangerous. But no, I never liked the option. I didn't like the option of the takedown. I didn't like the option of the leg hum. Nothing against grappling. It's a beautiful sport. It's just I prefer no escape. I guess it goes with the nickname.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I watch the UFC every Saturday for their fight nights, everything like that. I know the technical portion of the grappling and the ground game that
Hmm.
a lot of the fans don't like. You can hear them start to boo whenever they're on the ground. It seems like it's a stalemate. I mean, there's a lot going on when that happens, but when it's a stand up, just they're throwing it like that's what I look for when I'm watching a fight, and it's just so entertaining to me. And somebody coming from somebody who has a black belt in Taekwondo. I like the stand up game. I was never really good at the ground. I mean, they say I have the body for it because I'm 6'5", so I have these lanky arms and these lanky legs. But yeah, I just never liked it when I was learning Taekwondo. They try to teach us a little bit of the ground stuff. It wasn't for me either. So I
Right.
get that for sure.
Hmm.
That I mean, it's not for everybody, but yeah, when it's two bruisers in there and they're just throwing in the middle of the octagon, there's nothing better.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, um, like I said in the beginning, you came to us from former guest Tony. How do you know Tony? Do you guys train at the same gym? Like, what's the backstory with you and Tony?
That's a doozy, actually. I don't know if he mentioned we're technically cousins. Uh, I was training at another gym, and I'm not going to name names. It's honestly not even worth my time. I fought out of there. I had one smoker fight out of there. That's where my MMA fight was, and a whole bunch of grappling tournaments, BJJ stuff. And the owner just and I didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. There's plenty I could say that's negative, but there's no point. So greener pastures. A lot of times the grass is greener on the other side, and I found that out firsthand when I went to Upgrade Industries. Uh, I got a I got a taste of what the fight scene, training, and everything should be like, and me and Tony became buddies and training partners, and he helped me a lot through my first few fights at Upgraded, and I want to say 4 or 5 fights ago, a couple years back, my cousin hit me up and she was like, "Hey, saw your fight. Uh, you did really well. Blah blah blah. I just want to say thanks. Love you, cousin." And I was like, "When is her last name Tortorisi?" And out of curiosity, I was like, "Hey, Tony." I was like, is there any relation to this broad's husband?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, that's my cousin and his wife." And I go, "No." I go, "That's my cousin and her husband." So since then, we're like, "Oh shit, we're second cousins." So it was just one of those things where everything's meant to happen. Like I was meant to be there. Turns out I'm related to the big goofball.
Yeah, Tony's hysterical when we had him on. Just his energy. Um, Even doing it via Zoom and just when watching his last fight at Mountaineer Casino a couple months ago, and it was amazing to watch him and brawl and win the championship. But when you guys are in the gym, do we settle any family rivalries when we're in the octagon and training? Do we get into any of that while we're there? Just settle it in the octagon?
We haven't had too many. We haven't had too many beefs in there. We're both, believe it or not, even though we're only related by marriage, we're both pretty similar in the aspect as we're hard-headed and stubborn. And there has been times where shit talking has gotten the best of us, and we'll sit in there trade shots out of purely stupidity. But other than that, no, not real any beefs. Usually at the end of the day, we both realize that there's a touch of autism between the both of us, and we kind of just let it be that.
Got a touch of the tism, huh?
Oh, yeah. I should say it slapped the shit out of us, but
Hey, no worries. I mean, yeah, I grew up with my cousins being close by me, and we always settled it in the dumbest ways. You know what I mean? I think that's just kind of like a family thing to do, especially when it's two males, stubborn as mules. I grew up in a full-blooded Italian family. We're gonna talk for a second, and then we're gonna get to fisticuffs, and then
hey, you see my last name, dog. I get it.
I got to say the name. I see. Figure there's a little paisan in there somewhere.
More than a little, Bubba.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of, with Tony, and being the wrestler, I mean, do you think people with specifically a boxing background or a wrestling background are more equipped for MMA? I asked Tony the same question. I'm kind of interested to see your aspect of it.
That's the funny thing about Tony and I is we both favor two different ends of the spectrum. When it comes to that, he is super grappling heavy. He's a wrestler. He is a decorated wrestler from back in his day, the old bastard. But I would have to say grappling for MMA, because that option is there, is definitely the upper hand. Like, yeah, obviously every fight starts on the feet, but you saw what Tony did to that cat in Mountaineer. Is great. Like, when you have wrestling like that and grappling, you can make it the best of strikers look like a chump, and that's why I'm a striker through and through. But I'll ride with the grappler most of the time, just because don't get me wrong, there's a lot of guys who are good at anti-wrestling. I mean, I'm sure you're an Ilya Tuporia fan. He loves to stand and bang, and he loves to anti-wrestle. He doesn't have bad ground game, but if you can legate the takedown, then it's game over, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, most strikers have to have that defense when it comes to the takedown, and like they really need to master that first before they start to master. Because, like you said, if you could stop the takedown, it's just a street fight at that point in time. We're going to stand and brawl, and we're going to swing. And I fucking love it. I love it so much when that happens, and you can see a guy just stuffing takedown after takedown. But watching the UFC for as long as I have, I mean, look what Magomedov did to Conor McGregor, division champion. Conor was just a banger. Like, he wanted to stand, he wanted to throw hands, and Magomedov wanted to wrestle, and he made Conor look weak.
Oh, absolutely. And that first round, Conor's takedown defense was phenomenal.
Yeah, I was shocked at that. I was like, this might actually be a fight. He might actually have to stand and bang with him. We're going to see what he's got to stand. But, I mean, I didn't think it was going to last with the takedown defense, especially against him. That big Russian was a menace.
Oh, yeah, dude's a freak of nature for sure. All them Dagestanis are, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, not my style, not my favorite thing to watch. But like you said, I do know when it's technical, it is enjoyable to watch if I know I know the transitions that are happening. I know the submission attempts. I know the positions. But for someone who doesn't, I get it. Like, I get it, dude. It just looks like two goofballs rolling around.
Yeah.
But that's probably the greasy dago in me. All the boxers and stuff back in the day, they just want to watch, swinging and banging.
I'm so glad you used the word dago. I'm not going to lie to you here. I use that. My family uses that word a lot with each other. Like, wow, we're just a bunch of dagos. Like,
Oh yeah, for
I'm
sure.
so glad you used that term. I haven't heard anyone else say it but my family, so that's great. Um, but have you seen a lot of interesting places that venues that hold these MMA fights? Have you seen any personally that have taken place, and do any really stand out to you?
Believe it or not, Kemba in Columbus, I fought there. That's a beautiful venue. Like you're gonna get a lot of, especially in the amateur regional scene, you're gonna get a lot of what you saw in Mountaineer. But like I fought in my MMA fight was in uh Ohio or Valley. I don't remember. Cherry Valley in Columbus.
Okay.
That was a nice venue. Kemba Live was my favorite by far venue that I've gotten to fight at. Uh, I just got back from Thailand, and their venues are insane. Like they had fights all over the city going on, Muay Thai fights every night, and they were like mini arenas for it. Just 7 days a week, 7 nights a week. So that's the thing is like I've seen just about all you can see. Maybe New York's got some pretty sick ones. Like they do Buffalo River Works and stuff like that. Will hold fights. Nautica in Cleveland just got back to doing fight nights again. That's a cool venue. Uh, but yeah, like I said, a lot of your regional amateur MMA, amateur boxing, amateur kickboxing, you're gonna see a lot of uh, hotel banquet rooms and bowling alleys. Well, not so much bowling alleys anymore, but for a little while there, that was kind of the scene for it.
I get it with these, amateur venues and that, being an up and coming comedian, like I've done it in dive bars, I've done it in bowling alleys, I've performed stand up, anywhere there's a stage in them. Like I performed at a festival where there was literally two people sitting in the stands watching, and every like 500 people walking around
Hmm.
just heckling the shit out of you. But sometimes I appreciate those venues, like you said, the bowling alleys, the banquet halls. It's a little bit more intimate of a setting, and at least for comedy, I know that for me, it's you get to interact with the crowd a little bit more. Do you notice that with those types of venues in MMA? Like, does the crowd interact a little bit more? Do you feed off of them a little bit more than you would like these bigger arenas?
It's funny you ask that because, see, I'm not one that takes into consideration who's there to watch or the size of the crowd. That part doesn't bother me much. Like, I fought in Indiana last April or May for the Impacto 165 title, and their venue was like the venue wasn't the coolest or the greatest, but the production was nice. Like brand new big ring, the lights, the cameras, the pay-per-view, all that good stuff. And I mean it brings a little bit it's an atmosphere. It's
Yeah.
like a vibe to it. It definitely hypes you up a little more if it is a cooler venue, cuz the few boxing fights I've taken outside of kickboxing, just straight boxing, just to do them. Those are definitely on the lower end. Like there was one I did in Columbus just to knock the rust off a year ago, and it was like a freaking barn, like a metal building up in a parking lot somewhere. And it was just kind of like it kind of took away from it. It takes the hype away a little bit, for
Right.
sure. When it's a cooler venue, like Kemba had like the double deck seating, like there was the ground floor, one level, then another level. That definitely made it cooler because it kind of gets in the zone a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that, especially for the fight game. Like, I've always said that, for me in my profession, like I said, being a comedian, those smaller rooms are the harder rooms to win over.
Hmm.
Because for me, laughter is contagious. You get one person that laughs, and then somebody else just kind of chimes in. Those smaller rooms, they're tougher to win over for
Hmm.
sure. And you kind of have that mindset going in, like, oh man, this is going to be tough. And I think it takes you off your game, like you said there with the different venues. It takes you off your game a little bit, and it really makes you focus a little bit more. But I can see that for fight game, like if it's a smaller venue. I mean, I know most fighters aren't really too worried about the crowd. They're worried about their opponent, and who's across the octagon or the ring. But I've always wondered that about certain fighters. Like, I mean, after like a round or two, you're feeding off the crowd still, or is it more just now where it's down to strategy if we're out of the first round?
Um, Usually for me, the first round's a feeling out process. I don't usually go balls to the wall early. I'll usually kind of play touch butt with him first round, move around the ring, see what angles he likes to take. Usually, and I'll let them go nuts. If they want to tee off on me and gas their arms out, go ahead. But yeah, later in the fight, like I said, that title fight in Indiana was a 5-round title fight. So I was definitely after the third round, I was definitely like, I guess, coherent to everything else going on in the crowd. I could hear everything everybody was saying. I was able to like look over and like visually see, because you walk into a fight fresh and it's tunnel vision. You don't really, you're not focused on anything else. But after going for 3 rounds and knowing you have 2 more rounds ahead of you, you definitely start to get more coherent and adjust to everything going on. So yeah, you can feed off the crowd a little bit, especially in 5-round fights.
Later rounds.
Yeah, later rounds, indefinitely.
Yeah, I can kind of see that for sure. So, excuse me, with you having kickboxing and more of a stand up game, when you are training for like MMA, what's a typical workout look like for you?
To be honest with you, I'm just a kickboxer anymore.
Okay.
I did my one MMA fight and I was like, don't like the ground game. So I've strictly been kickboxing ever since 2021.
Okay. So with that, just being a kickboxer, is there anything else professionally that you do for like a job, or is the fight game kind of what you do for a living?
No, not a chance. I am a bricklayer by trade, but I come straight from work into the gym and do conditioning usually every day. Recently, I've been have some lingering injuries that have been keeping me from doing that, but I'm still in the gym 2 to 3 days a week outside of lifting and doing cardio. But say fight camp's on, and I'm in the gym every single day. Usually not Sundays, maybe a Wednesday rest day if I'm too beat up. Conditioning for an hour, and then I'll do movement drills, and then class will start. And if it's not technique, it's mitts or just depending on if usually I'm fighting a taller opponent. I'm 5'8", walk around 165, and I usually cut to 160 or 155.
Okay.
But I have a title for Impacto at 65, and that was a 3-week notice thing. And then the following week, I won Golden Gloves in Cleveland at 165. And so if I'm not cutting a whole bunch of weight, usually I thrive off good cardio. I'm known for it. A lot of my fights are high pace. So usually if I'm not cutting weight, we're not super focused on my cardio. It's just more or less technique and, sharpening certain things that I need to work on.
Okay, I can see that for sure. Now, when you said you cut weight sometimes and sometimes you don't, do you have a preferred weight that you would prefer to fight at? I mean, obviously, if you're not having to cut at your 165 that you say you walk around at, I mean, obviously that you might feel a little bit better than that. But I know some people like, yeah, I walk around at this weight, but I cut to 155, and I feel like I do better there. Does that cross your mind any at all when you're selecting fights?
I'm definitely not going to get any lower than 55. I do have to try harder to get to 55. 160 I can make pretty easy. My body's, I have not that hard of a time. I say it because I'm a psycho, but I don't have that hard of a time cutting weight in general. Like I wasn't even trying to cut weight for that 65 fight. It was on 3 weeks notice. The title challenger pulled out 3 weeks out, and I was next in line. So they called me up on 3 weeks notice, and I was like, I'm 170 right now. I was like, I'll get to work. So, and within 3 weeks, I knocked out 8-9 pounds. I got on the scale at 161.
Okay.
So 55, yeah, that's where I'm start cutting water hard. 160, I can get down to fairly easy. But yeah, I cut water pretty easy. I cut weight pretty easy. So it's never been a huge deal for me. There's sometimes if it's, summertime and I'm eating and I'm partying and I'm just being stupid with my friends, and yeah, sometimes I'll float up to 173, 175. But once I put the work in and I eat right, it comes off pretty quick.
Yeah, I think I've noticed that about a lot of fighters. Like they can put weight on real easily, but they can take it off just as
Oh
easy.
yeah.
I think their bodies just get used to having to cut that water weight and get all that out of them, and it becomes easier to cut weight. I don't know if that's true or not, or if I'm just making that up, but I that's just kind of what I think happens is they just get their bodies get so used to being able to have to cut weight for certain events that it just starts to happen naturally.
Oh yeah, that for sure. I definitely fluctuate a lot more now than I used to. I mean, even if I'm not in a fight camp, I still try to get a gallon of water in a day. Sometimes my body doesn't cooperate and it will purposely hold water depending on what I'm eating and if I'm doing certain things. But for the most part, yeah, I've my body kind of gets it. Like it's weird. It's almost like I've grown to like, okay, if my body's like, oh, you're depriving yourself of carbs a little bit. Oh, you're pumping in protein. You're doing this, that, and the other. Time to shed some weight. So yeah, it does come easier over time, especially if you've conditioned to water intake and you know killing water.
Getting used to that. Now I know I've asked a couple of the other fighters that I've had on this show here in the past 4 years. Now I see these guys in the UFC, and I know they weigh in like a day or two beforehand to get to
Mhm.
their weight. But we'll just use your 165. But when I see them in the ring, I was like, I'll kiss your ass if he's 165 pounds right now. There's no way he's 165 pounds. Like, do you have that to where, yes, I made weight and now, okay, I could put a little bit more on to be into the ring? Or do you try to stay at that 165 and be there?
So for that fight, I still obviously sweated out a little bit of water just to make sure I was under. I didn't expect to be 161 when I stepped on the scale, but yeah, that's 100% true. My first fight was at 55, and it was my first hard cut. Like I've cut for BJJ tournaments. I cut for the smoker fight before that, but that was my first real hard 155 cut, and that was day of. That's the thing is from like title fights for kickboxing for the most part around these parts, it's usually day before weigh-ins, which is nice. So there's really no point in me going at 65. But those day of weigh-ins, those are brutal because when I made 55, I was skin and bones. I tell you, I was skin and bones. And the minute I drank water, I felt my body fill back up, and I was like, all right, I got 7 to 8 hours to get back into, go mode. And I weighed in at 154 something. I probably stepped into the ring at 169. I'm gonna say 169. If I remember correctly, I remember stepping on the scale later that night in the hotel room, and I want to say I was like 169. That was before I started drinking and eating hardcore.
Gotcha. So yeah, that's probably pretty typical for most fighters, especially the ones that have to cut weight to get down to their weight class. Like
Oh
they're
yeah.
they're putting it back on before the fight.
Oh yeah. There's a huge difference between weight, like scale weight, and then ring weight.
Yeah, that's pretty consistent with what most of them have said, and they all kind of get that little smirk that you kind of did when I asked the question. Like, yeah, we all know that we're not that way when we
Hey,
step
dude,
in the
look
ring.
at Alex Pereira. I mean, you gotta think that cat was fighting at 185 at one point, and he walks around at 230. So
I would say there's no fucking way he's 180 when he steps into the ring. Not a chance.
that's a big boy there.
Yeah, he's definitely a big boy.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of him, though. I was watching him back when he was in Glory.
Yeah,
Hmm.
there's a couple that I've watched and kind of coming up the ranks. And then there's a couple out of Cleveland that I've had on the show. They're doing big things. They're starting to make some headway in the amateur rankings and get into their professional fightings now, and their professional careers. And I'm so happy for them because I had them on the show. They're like one of the first couple fighters we had on the show. It is, oh my God, why can't I think of his name? I just thought of it, and his name literally just left my head. But Blake is the last name. And he's,
Blake's the last name?
I believe Blake's the last name.
Where's he out of now?
He's still out of Cleveland, but he every now and again he goes to Hawaii and trains. He has family.
You're talking about Blake Perry.
Blacklayer, yeah, there it is. Yep, absolutely. Oh my god, I knew it and I could not think of his name.
He's bouncing between Hawaii and Cali now. No, Blake's a good dude. I know him. My buddy is married to his sister.
Okay.
But Blake comes up every now and then. I literally just talked to his mom yesterday. She's in the gym all the time.
Oh, his mom was on the show. She's hysterical, and she's in the gym. She's fighting to him. Like, wow, that's insane.
Oh yeah, she's a bad woman, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, I just again seeing her on Zoom, I was like, you know what? I wouldn't mess with you. You look like you could. You just look like you could fight. I'm just gonna say that right now. Like, you look like a fighter. And she was like, oh yeah. I was like, so do you and Blake ever like spar? Like, do you ever like get into the ring? Now we're having a mom son fight, and now we're gonna settle it in the ring. That stuff like that. But it's funny. They're great people. Love talking to them on here. But I follow them. I believe he just had something on the UFC Fight Pass not too long ago. I think it was him and a couple people out of his gym have made it.
I believe his most recent fight was a loss, I want to say.
It was a loss, yeah.
Okay. That was his first fight after he had his nose wrapped around his head.
Yeah, it was, oddly enough, it was like a week or two after that happened when he was on the show and we had him on the show. Like, he had like, hey, I have a fight. Like, I was like, no, do your thing, and then we'll get you on the show. And then we had to push the recording back a couple days just so he can get his nose right and be able to talk. And I was like, man,
dude, I seen that goofy bastard's nose on Sports Center.
Yeah, I saw that too. I was like, man, good for you for making Sports Center, but not for the right reasons. I mean, it's because your nose is literally attached to your ear now. Because it's just
he's from out this way. I believe he wrestled for Jefferson. He's a tough cat.
Absolutely, for sure. But Anthony, hey, we are running down here near the end of the episode here. I do have one last segment I do want to get in here. And for anybody who's listened to the show before, you know what's coming. For anybody who hasn't, this is the Fast Fitty 5. It is 5 random questions from the wonderful manager of the podcast, Johnny Fitty Falcone. These are the most random questions. They're kind of rapid fire, Anthony, but you can kind of elaborate if you need to. It's a fun way we like to end the show. So if you're ready for the Fast 5, we'll go ahead and get started.
Let them rip.
All righty. First question, baked or grilled chicken, which is better?
Grilled.
Yeah, that's I think he tossed you up on the first one there. Question number 2, if you are doing dinner and a movie for a date, should you do dinner before or after the movie?
Dinner before.
Yeah, definitely before. Question number 3, the best fish to eat is?
Shrimp.
Shrimp. All right. Yeah, I can see that. I'm a big shrimp guy. Question number 4, best place you've ever visited?
Thailand.
Okay. This last one, I knew he was going to ask this type of question. The last question here, who wins in a fight, 100 chickens or 25 squirrels?
25 squirrels.
Well, yeah, they're just too quick. I think the speed takes that one for sure. I raised chickens before. Yeah, squirrels are taking them every time. And that was the fast. I will say you took the rapid fire to that to heart, and I appreciate that sometimes. But this is just the way the mind of Johnny Fitty Falcone works, and he comes up with these random questions on a daily basis, and we like to put them into the show, and it's just a fun way for us to kind of wind down the episode here. But I do give every guest, Anthony, this opportunity at the end of every show. If there's anything you want to get out, if you have any fights coming up or you want to promote the gym that you're working out with, I'm going to give you about a minute, and the floor is yours, my man.
I don't have anything coming up on paper. Like I said, lingering injuries. Once I'm cleared, hopefully I'll be back in action June or July, maybe even August. Outside of that, I mean, Upgraded Industries, there's really no other way to go about it. It's probably the best gym around, so we offer everything: MMA, boxing, kickboxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kids, adults, fighters, common folk, and we got one of the best lifting facilities in the building, in the area. So, I mean, we got everything you want to offer there.
All right. Yeah, I'm always down for helping people out. If there's a link or anything where people can look up that, I will definitely put that into the description of this episode so everyone can kind of check you guys out, see what you got going on there, and maybe, get a couple more fighters out there for you guys to bang around with in the gym. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. I want to thank my guest, Anthony the Violence Pirozzoli, for coming on. This was a lot of fun to get to talk, all things fighting and with your fighting career and everything like that. Glad to have you on. As always, if you enjoyed the show, be a friend, tell a friend. If you didn't, tell them anyways. They might like it just because you didn't. That's going to do it for me, and I will see y'all next week.
The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by W Energy. Energy drinks made for gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. For gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. Go to the link in the description where you can find the best energy drinks out there. Less caffeine than a cup of coffee. Also, no jitters and no crash afterwards. Use the promo code Mike Bono and get yourself 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my favorite sponsor of the show, and that is Shankit Golf. Golf apparel made for the everyday golfer. We might not go out and shoot a 6 under par. We're probably going to shoot a 6 over par, but this is going to give us the gear that's going to help us rocket on and off of the course. Go to the link in the bio, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get yourself 10% off there as well.